Hi. So welcome to Parshas Chukas and Be'ezras Hashem.
Hi, I just am telling
Yeah.
you I'm running around, which is why I'm turning my camera off so I don't dizzy anybody. But I'm
Okay, just
here.
you're being recorded. Just let you know because the recording is on, but you're on, and that's great. Thank you for being here. It's okay.
Okay.
You can turn
Okay.
yourself off. It's just fine.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Everybody who's here, it's always so nice to have you on live, and to everybody who's here on the recording, also great to have you here as well. Parshas Chukas. I know in America you're not in Parshas Chukas. In Eretz Israel here we are in Parshas Chukas. So you're taking, a Chumash class for those who are in the States, and next week it will be relevant. So Chazal tell us in Avos, if you've learned a lot of Torah, don't don't become proud of yourself. Don't the literal words of the that it says in Pirkei Avos is Al tachzik tova la'atzmecha. Don't um don't take the good that you have done for yourself. Because you were created for this. Whatever Torah you have learned, whatever Torah we learn, whatever mitzvahs we do, we're not supposed to be machzik tova mean. We're not supposed to say that I did this for myself. Again, this is a theme that we keep on returning to because this is one of the fundamental aspects of the Torah of Rab Asha, that we didn't create the Torah that we learn. We didn't create the mitzvahs that we keep, and so we cannot help grace. We cannot become proud of ourselves because of what we've done. Okay. So Russia goes on to ask a question: does a person feel proud of his legs that he walks on, or does a person take pride in his eyes that see, or in his mouth that speaks? Do we feel so proud of ourselves that we have a mouth? Obviously, we were born with a mouth. Okay, we were born with a mouth that speaks, and Baruch Hashem, it's a gift. But certainly, we don't feel proud of ourselves that we have a mouth. We know that we were given it, right? We were created and born with a mouth. Baruch Hashem. The Rabash says maybe the donkey that Bilam had, maybe he could be proud of himself because he wasn't created with that mouth. It was opened up. It was a brand new creation that a Kodesh Baruch Hu opened up for him, as we learn in Parshas Balak. But a person who was born with the capacity to speak, that's nothing that we can take pride in. It was given to us as a gift. And the same thing is with learning Torah. A person who learns a lot of Torah, even if he achieves greatness, even if he works really, really hard in making time for that Torah and thinking deeply into the Torah, he still cannot take pride in what he has done because this is what he was created for. And the strength to learn Torah, the wisdom that he has, the capacity to understand, all of these things were created with him. I'm sure we've told one time, but it's worth repeating again. The Chazal tell us the story of Eliyahu Hanavi, that Eliyahu one time saw a fisherman and he watched him a whole day, and he saw that he was spending his entire time making nets, fishing, and he wasn't putting aside time to learn Torah. And so the Eliyahu Hanavi asked the fisherman, "What's going to be with Torah? You're learning. I mean, you're busy fishing, but what's going to be with the Torah?" And Eliyahu and the fisherman said to Eliyahu, "I wasn't given the brain for Torah. I'm a simple fisherman." Okay. Eliyahu Hanavi sat down to watch the fisherman, and throughout the day he saw how this fisherman was making complicated knots and building his nets for fishing. And at a certain point, Eliyahu Hanavi came along to him and said, "Well, you're making these exceptional nets. Show me how you do this." And he showed Eliyahu the particular knots that he made in his fishing nets and how he created them. There's a lot of wisdom that goes into making these knots, and the fisherman showed him various different complex knots that he knew how to create. At a certain point, Eliyahu said to him, "Who gave you? Who taught you how to make these knots?" And fisherman said, Hashem gave me the wisdom to make these knots. And Eliyahu Navi said, Hashem gave you the wisdom to make the knots, but not to learn Torah. Meaning that any wisdom that we've been given, it's in order that we should learn Torah. If we have a capacity to understand something, we have the obligation to use that capacity to understand to learn Torah. And ever since Sarah Schneer, it is understood in the world that women have a deep capacity for understanding, and that if we don't use our capacity for wisdom and for understanding and learning in Torah and learning things, then it could be potentially dangerous for women. And if women are not allowed to learn Torah, then they could feel marginalized and disconnected from the Torah. And so in Baruch Hashem, in our days, we have tremendous access to the depth of the Torah. We don't have a mitzvah to learn Torah day and night, but we do have a mitzvah for sure, to learn the halachas, to learn the laws, to learn any kind of Jewish thought that will strengthen us. We need to learn whatever we need to learn in order to be able to fulfill the mitzvahs of the Torah. So we need to learn the law. We need to learn whatever kind of Jewish theory that is going to encourage us to keep the mitzvahs. And we have a mitzvah to say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, to say Shema Yisrael, to say Hashem, you are one. So we have a mitzvah to think into Hashem Echad, to think into the Yichud Hashem, into the oneness of Hashem. And this is a mitzvah upon every single Jew, to delve into the oneness of Hashem and into the midos of Hashem, v'holachta b'drachav, to walk in the path of Hashem. This is a mitzvah for every single Jew, men, women, children. And so the fact that we've been given the wisdom to understand the traits of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Hashem, and to learn and to go in the paths of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is what we were born with. So we cannot take pride in the fact that we've learned how to walk in the paths of Hashem. That's not something we can take pride in, because that's what we were born for. We were born to learn the mitzvahs. We were born to fulfill the Torah. It's not something that we can take pride in. We can take pleasure, as we discussed in previous classes, that Rav Noach Weinberg said that we must not take pride in our accomplishments, but we can take pleasure in them. We can enjoy, we can have a tremendous joy in the mitzvahs that we fulfill, and in the Torah that we've learned, and in the Torah that we support. As the Gemara teaches us, that whilst we do not have a constant mitzvah to learn Torah, but women, we have a mitzvah to support Torah. And when we do anything to support the men who are learning Torah, such as helping our husbands go, helping our children go, whether it's brothers, even if we're not married and even if we don't have husbands or children who are going to learn Torah, but we support the local shul, or we support the local kollel, and we give, maybe in money, or maybe we bake for them, or in whichever way we support the learning of Torah, we have a chelik in that. Not only that, but let's say a woman spends her whole life supporting her husband in learning Torah. Woman came to me this week with this exact question, and it turns out that her husband was a big fake in every area of his life. He was he didn't want to learn Torah. He was doing it just to cover up his addictions. He wasn't a a person who was really learning Torah, but she was like letting him stay out late and taking care of the family, and he was busy with his addictions. So she asks, what's my part in the Torah then? I thought I was supporting Torah. What was I actually supporting? Addictions? And the truth is, when we say, when somebody makes a siyum on the Torah, and they say that hey mamalim va'anu amaylim, we toil and they toil. Anu amaylim u'mekablim schar, v'heim amaylim v'eina mekablim schar. That when we talk about Jews who are learning Torah, who are working hard in learning Torah, they receive reward not for the product, but for the toil. And let's say the example is brought down that let's say a non-Jewish person who makes a table, and he made it to order, walked the other day past a carpentry store where they accept orders for specifications for the kind of table or wardrobe that the client wants, and then they supply the client what they ordered. Let's say this carpenter made a table and doesn't fit into the area that the client ordered. The client is absolutely right if he says, I'm not paying for this table. I ordered the table. I ordered with these specifications. You didn't make what I wanted. I can't use this table. I'm not going to pay for it. So that's what it means. They toil, they work, they do things, but they actually don't get a reward for it if they make a mistake. But anu amelim u'mekablim schar, we toil and we get reward. Even if there was mistakes, even if we didn't understand the Torah that we learned properly, even if a woman supports a husband to learn Torah, and it turns out he wasn't doing that all those years. She toiled for Torah, she gets the schar of Torah. The schar she has, it's given to her, and that is her inheritance, and no one can take that away from her because she was toiling. Her toil was in Torah, and no one can take that away from her. And that's what we were created for. We were created to bring Torah into the world. I had the tremendous chus today to be at a siyum of my I think it's 8-year-old, my 8-year-old grandson, who finished Hamisha Chumshei Torah. He finished learning the 5 books of the Torah in his cheder, and they made a beautiful siyum. They made a beautiful completion of the Chumash, and it's such nachas to be able to be there. And one of the actually the mayor of Beitar spoke. His son happens to be in the same cheder, and he was saying how it says, Chazal teach us that Hakoil kol Yaakov v'hayudayim yudei Esav. The voice is the voice of Yaakov, and the hands are the hands of Esav. It's in a pasuk. It's a pasuk in the Torah where Yaakov Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, was being visited by Yaakov, dressed up as Esav, and he was confused. Who is it? The voice I hear is Yaakov, but the hands, when he felt the hands of, because Yaakov, as we know, had put hair onto his hands so that if his father would feel him, he would feel it was the hands of Esav. And he says the voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esav. But Chazal teaches on this, that when the voice is the voice of Yaakov, when we are learning Torah, then the yadayim of Esav, then the hands of Esav, the war that the world wants to wage against us doesn't have the power. He said that the most powerful weapons of defense for Klal Yisrael in our Holy Land are these young children who are learning Chumash. Yes, they are. They are the most powerful ones. And it is so tragic to witness what is happening in our land. I don't know if everybody who is watching, who happens to be around the world, realizes that young men who are learning Torah have been now outlawed and are now considered to be prey for the police to just take them away, even if they just walk into a police station to to claim that something happened to them. If they are registered as being in an institution where they're learning Torah day and night, then they can be arrested and taken to prison without any questions being asked. So this is like, it's like living in Russia. It's like living in Soviet Russia. To be imprisoned for learning Torah, we have to speak out about this. We have to recognize that the greatest defense of Klal Yisrael is the learning of Torah. The tiny children learning Torah, the adults learning Torah. And it doesn't mean that they have to be perfect. It doesn't mean that they need to be, devoted all the time. It doesn't mean that we have to learn perfectly. But it does mean that, and as we're going to learn soon, Rab Osher's foundational understanding of how we have to learn Torah. It doesn't mean that we have to learn 24/7. But we as Klal Yisrael have to realize that the only safety comes from the Torah. The only protection comes from the Torah. When the voice of Torah and Tefillah is heard from Klal Yisrael, and the voice is the voice of Yaakov, when we raise our voice in prayer and we raise our voice in learning, then we are giving an inherent protection. We are given an inherent protection against what goes on. And if, chas v'shalom, the voice of Torah and Tefillah is weakened, then the strength is given to the hands of Esav to chas v'shalom come along against us, chas v'shalom. So we do whatever we can do to strengthen the voice of Yaakov, to strengthen Torah in the ways that we can do it. So what does Rab have to say about how we're supposed to do this? Okay. So it says in our parsha, Zois HaTorah, Adam ki yamus ba'ohel. So this is the Torah, a person who dies in the tent. And Chazal say about this, Ein divrei Torah mischaimim, ela b'mi shememis atzmai aleh. This is in Brachos. Chazal say about this, that the Torah only endures within a person who dies for the Torah, who kills himself for the words of Torah. This sounds very, it could sound negative. It could sound like, who knows what we're being asked to do here on behalf of the Torah. So what does it mean, Rab Asher says? What does it mean, memis, to kill himself for the Torah, to die for the sake of the Torah? Are we being asked to die al Kiddush Hashem, to learn the Torah? Okay, maybe that's what we're being asked. That's not what Rab Asher is referring to over here. And certainly, Rabbi Akiva gave his life. He was caught learning Torah. And throughout the ages, there have been tzaddikim who have been caught learning Torah. And Chazal said about Rabbi Akiva, Ashrecha, that you were caught and you were put in prison for learning Torah. That was as it was your crime, as it was. And so anybody whose biggest crime is learning Torah, ashrei him. They are praiseworthy. And yet, what does Rab Asher say? What does this mean about that they need to give up their lives for Torah? It seems like the Torah is the opposite of, we're not supposed to die learning Torah. On the contrary, the Torah gives us life and not death, right? As it says, v'chai b'hem, live with them. We're supposed to live with the words of Torah. The Torah is a culture of life. We know that apart from three fundamental mitzvahs, we have to do any avera in order to save lives. Ours is not a culture of death. In fact, we're surrounded by peoples who have a culture of death. That's not our culture. And so this seems to be the opposite of how we actually manage our lives in the Torah is a eitz hachayim lemachzikim ba. It is a tree of life to those who hold on to it. So how can we understand then this instruction? What does this actually mean? A person needs to learn Torah L'shmoi shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu bilvad. A person needs to learn Torah only for the name of the Holy One, and not to give for himself the honor. That he should kill his need for gaiva in his learning of the Torah. He shouldn't use the Torah as a way to aggrandize himself, but that's what he should kill down, as it were. He should, as if die within himself. He should lessen and get rid of to the point where it doesn't exist. This is the instruction. This is the intensity of what it's talking about. To kill the desire of his using the Torah to make something of himself and to use it to make himself great, and to use it as a again as a way to build his own ego. He should nullify his ego when it comes to the learning of the Torah before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then the Torah will endure within him. Then he will have a chance of attaching himself to the true Torah. The Nesiva Shalom brings down, and Reb Asher brings down, and the Divrei Yisrael of Majitz bring down. They all bring down in different kinds of ways that a person could spend their entire life learning Torah and teaching Torah, and it could all be one big pride show. It could all be a cover-up for terrible midos, for gaiva, and so that the Torah therefore doesn't actually endure within him. It's all just from the lips and outward, and it doesn't exist in a real way within the person. A person who, as Reb Asher now says here, a person who learns Torah without nullifying his own essence, without killing that part of himself that says, I'm here, and this is me, and I did this, and look how great I am. A person who learns Torah without really overcoming that spark of his ego within himself, who doesn't kill that yeshus, that me, that look at me that exists within himself, the Torah doesn't have an enduring future within him. He may learn Torah, and he actually may have accomplished a lot in how much he knows. But he says, he and the Torah are two different things. The Torah is not a part of his life. It is not a part of who he is. And he cannot say about it, Kiheim Chayenu, that the Torah is his life. If he is holding on to the gaiva, the pride of himself, that he takes personal pride in the Torah that he has learned. The Baal HaTurim, in the beginning of the Parsha, says, that's why V'zois Chukas HaTorah is attached to the mitzvah of the Truma of the previous Parsha, to hint to us that what Chazal say, that the Torah was only given to those who ate the man and to those who eat Truma. The Torah was given at Har Sinai to a nation that had been eating the man through their wanderings through the desert. So the Torah was particularly the Torah was given at that time in history to the people who had eaten the man, that having eaten the manna for all of those, the time prior to receiving the Torah, was actually necessary, preliminary to receiving the Torah. Why so? Rabashi says there was not a single Jew who received the Torah that didn't eat the man. What was it about eating the manna? Nobody who ate the manna that came down from heaven imagined that he was the one who brought down the manna himself. That he, with his wisdom or with his strength, that he brought it down for himself. Everybody saw that the food came down from heaven, and that there was no manpower involved in any process of the man being brought down to the people. That's exactly what the Torah is like. A person could learn Torah. He could even toil in Torah. It could be very hard for him to learn something. And he has to work very hard to understand something. And then he finally grasps after tremendous amount of effort. But he was not the one who did all of that. Whenever we understand something, and let's really get it, Torah imecha, okay? We are the ones who hold on to Torah imecha. We have the Torah that was given over to the mothers. And even if we don't have our own children, we are the ones who, the women of Chaya Israel, have the Torah imecha that is given over to the entire nation. Every single woman in Chaya Israel is the recipient and holds on to Torah imecha, which is the midos, which is the emuna. Okay, we are the ones who hold on to that. But we must not take pride in that ourselves either. We're given it as an inheritance. We're given it to us as a gift. We didn't make it. And so every one of us that finds that as we we might have been given an insight into something that can help Klal Yisrael. It may be an insight into how to help raising children. It may be an insight in Shalom Bayis. It may be an insight in how to help individuals heal or grow in a certain character trait. We may have those kinds of insights that Hashem blesses us with. We have to have the humility to recognize Hashem gave this to me. It's part of how I was created. It's not mine. And when we do that, we actually open ourselves up to be part of an incredible, powerful creative process where we are attuned to being a conduit and a channel, rather than believing that we have to work so hard to create something from nowhere and that we have to somehow, rack our brains to come up with ideas. When we tune into the channel that we really all are, that we were created to be part of the channel of Torah Semech, of the Torah, of women that a Kadosh Baruch Hu created that comes into the world. All of us are amazing channels for ourselves and for our families. We're all the conduit for wisdom, for understanding, for Torah Imecha, for how to live a life aligned with Emunah. The word aim, Aleph Mem, is the beginning of the word Emunah, faith. So Torah Imecha, an enormous part of Torah Imecha is Emunah, is faith. And so if we have any kind of insight that we're blessed with in how to help those around us grow in faith and in trust and in any of the positive character traits that we learn in the Torah, could we take credit? Could we say that it initiated within us? This is what Rav is telling us. He's not only telling us the Sur Meirah. He's not only telling us stay away from the pride, stay away from taking credit for yourself, because what he's doing is opening up the door for the Aseh Toiv. He's opening up the door for the go through into the pathway of becoming a conduit, of becoming a true vessel, for bringing down the wisdom from above. And the only way to do that, the only way to say Kichein Chayenu, that the Torah is our life, is when we realize that it's not me. I can't take credit for anything that I've said. I can't take credit for any insight that I have. I can't take credit for any idea that came through me. You were created for this. Every one of us was created to give over Torah Simecha, to give over the Torah that belongs to the women of Klal Yisrael. Each one of us is a conduit. When we take it for ourselves, we make it small. We even make it separate from our essence. We make it into we take an idea that could be so great and we turn it into something man-made and small and separate. We take it away from its source if we take credit for it from ourselves. But as soon as we tune into the truth that Kadosh Baruch Hu is the source of everything, I was created to be the conduit for Torah Simecha. I was created to be the conduit for faith and trust, and to give it to all of those who could potentially hear it from me, from anybody that I could influence in any positive way. And I don't take credit for it, but I realize every single thought that I have, every insight, every word, it didn't come from me. Just as I was created with a mouth, these words were created through me. They come through me. They're not mine, but they're a gift that I can enjoy. I can enjoy the fact that I can give over something of beauty, of an idea of the Torah, but I cannot take credit for it. That's the memis es atzmi. That's what it means to kill ourselves on the Torah. We have to kill the aspect of ourselves that wants to take credit for the Torah. And then, counterintuitively, then it can live within us. Because then it is Torah's Chaim. Then we can say Kiheim Chayenu. It is our life force because it comes through us. Because through that realization that I didn't come up with that thought. I didn't come up with that idea. How did it come into my head even? It came from a source above, just like the man, just like the manna that Kadosh Baruch Hu fed our ancestors in the desert for 40 years, just like that came down from heaven. So the ideas come down from heaven. We may not see them. We may not see a letter flying down from heaven, landing in front of us to give us the idea. But the idea is every thought comes into our mind. The Baal Shem Tov said that every single thought a person has comes from Hashem. Certain thoughts might come in as an assign for us to overcome whatever was in that thought. But certainly ideas of Torah, ideas of faith, ideas of trust, ideas of growth in character traits, certainly they come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so that's the part of ourselves that we want to kill. And that sounds quite extreme, but the more that we can nullify and make non-existent, the more that we realize I don't exist, I don't bring from myself, I don't think that it's mine, this Torah. I know that it entirely comes from Hashem. When we do that, it becomes a life force that pulses through us. So all of the Torah that we have, it was all given to all of us as a free gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And not only that, it was given to him when he was born. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us our chelek in Torah, our portion in Torah when we were born. We were given the capacity to understand the Torah. We were given the strength to put effort into Torah. Each one of us, according to whether we're supporting somebody else in learning Torah, whether we're the Yisachar, the Zvulun, whether we're the ones we may be making a living, making a parnasa, doing what we can do to support Torah, whether we're doing it to support members of the family, whether we're doing it to support people in the community learning Torah, where we're giving to a kollel or we're giving to a yeshiva. Whatever is the way that we are engaging in our own Torah, in influencing others to serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu, supporting those who are learning Torah, whatever our chelik is, it was given to us. The path to it was given to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Our response is gratitude for the place Hashem has given us in the world of Torah, rather than taking credit. When we take credit, we're taking it away and we're cutting it off from its life force. When we step into the gratitude of knowing that this was given to me, and this is what Hashem created me for. I was born for this. I was created for this. This is nothing that I could take credit for myself, but I can take pleasure by stepping into my purpose, because this is what Hashem created me for. If I do this, then I won't take credit for myself. I will take pleasure in what I do. And Be'ezah Hashem, we will be zeiche to live a life of Torah, to live a life where the Torah has a chiyus, where the Torah is a life force inside us. And we may feel that, but it's hard for me to give up my yeshus, my it's me. The way to encourage ourselves to give that up is recognizing that we can attach ourselves to the tree of life when we give up our need to be this separate leaf that's flying by itself and doesn't have any connection to the tree. I'll end with a beautiful image that Rav Yosef Mendelevich, the prisoner of Zion, he was in Soviet Russia, and he was arrested for trying to escape, to come to the Holy Land, to be free to learn Torah here. And Um, he was, I believe he was 12 or 13 years in various different Soviet prisons. And at one point, he was being taken from one prison deep in the middle of Soviet Russia to another prison even more deeply in the middle of Soviet Russia. And he felt like I'm just this little piece of nothing being moved from here to there and everywhere. What am I? And he felt hopeless, and he felt that there was no meaning to his life. Would he ever be free again? Would he be ever able to reach the Holy Land, which, as we know, he did, and he established yeshivas, and Baruch Hashem, he was able to do tremendous things. But at that point, it was one of his low moments, which we all have in life. And he said at that point, on that train, all of a sudden inside, Hashem sent him a vision of a tree. And a voice spoke to him inside himself that said, "You are the tree and you are a leaf. You're a leaf on the tree and you are the tree." That each one of us, every one of us in Klal Yisrael, we're a leaf attached to the tree of life. But each one of us is also a part of the tree. The tree is a whole Eitz HaChaim. And every one of us is part of that tree that is continually growing and giving. And every one of us is a part of that. And every one of us is a unique aspect and is an attachment onto that tree of life. And we don't want to let go. And we have a choice to hold onto the tree of life. And how we hold onto it is to say, I'm not going to let go and try and be my own self and try and take credit for for my Torah accomplishment, whatever it is, whether we're raising Torah, we're raising money for Torah, or whatever it is that we do, each with our own lives. But when we realize it's all a gift from Hashem, and I'm grateful to be a part of this Eitz HaChaim, I'm grateful to be a conduit that any word of Torah could come through me, for myself or for my family, for anybody. I'm grateful. It's all a gift, and I cannot take credit for it for myself. Then we are part of that tree, and Be'ezras Hashem, not only do we gain from being a part of the tree, but the chiyus, the life force, the vitality of the Torah is Be'ez Hashem going to keep us alive, keep pulsing through us, give us vitality to 120. And may we all be zeicha to raise Doros Yeshayim U'Barachim, to have nachas from Torah generations. Be'ez Hashem. I'm going to check the chat and see if anybody had any questions or comments. If anybody wants to unmute themselves, please go ahead. No, nothing in the chat, nothing. Anybody want to unmute or say anything? Love to hear from you if you do. And if not, I want to wish everybody a beautiful Shabbos. Thank you everybody for being here.
I just wanted to say one thing that I was thinking about when you said Hashem puts ideas in your mind. I feel like it's for anything, even shidduchim.
That's part of Torah, right? A shidduch, creating a unity, for sure that's part of Torah. That's part of bringing in the next generation. You're absolutely right. I agree with you. And I agree that's for sure. Hashem put the idea in your mind. And I believe that's part
like any shidduch I made, it was like, oh, Hashem just let me do it,
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much for saying that. And I agree with you 100%. May you go on to make more shidduchim and build beautiful homes in Klal Yisrael, Be'ez Hashem, to bring nachas to them, to bring new places where the Shechina can dwell down here. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Amen. Bye-bye.